Imperial has entered into an agreement to acquire a 70% interest in Imres BV in a $58 million transaction there. Mark Lamberti, CEO of Imperial Holdings, joins us now to dissect the deal. Good to have you with us on the line today, Mark. Maybe if you can unpack this kind of transaction, because it's not just about buying a pharmaceuticals company to help distribute their goods, but there's also some management synergies that you're hoping to share across both firms.
Yes, well, our approach has always been in recent times to acquire businesses where the management could, be around for a while, help us to understand the business and add to the overall competence of our own management. Within our logistics business, which did about 41.3 billion rands of sales last year, we've been driving into Africa with a growth strategy around the distribution of consumer goods, mainly FMCG and pharmaceuticals. And so starting back in 2012, we started to acquire businesses, and since then we've built up a business of over 5.5 billion rand in pharmaceutical distribution. So Imres fits in very, very well with that. It's a wholesaler of pharmaceutical and medical supplies, and that goes to donors, to governments, to NGOs, to hospitals, and to retailers. And they operate out of Holland, but most of their distribution goes into Africa. So this complements what we've got, both in terms of our footprint in Africa in pharmaceutical distribution and in terms of our management strength that we'll get. We have, at the moment, logistics, warehousing, and distribution capability across 11 countries in Africa. That's about 30 warehouses of one sort or another, and we think that this adds to it very nicely.
Mark, it's Nozipho sitting with Google. Just to get your sense in terms of why you're so bullish about pharmaceuticals, in particular in emerging markets. We've also seen a lot of Indian players coming into emerging markets on the back of pharmaceuticals. And with that in mind, how are you going to make sure that you're able to differentiate yourself strongly?
Yes, we are. The African market is, as you know, unsophisticated at this stage in many respects. First of all, the distribution of ethical drugs requires some level of expertise. A couple of months ago, I turned the sods on a warehouse in Kenya where we are able to say to our principals, people like GlaxoSmithKline or Pfizer and so on, that we will maintain ethical drugs at a certain temperature which keeps them efficacious and so on. And of course, that kind of relatively sophisticated distribution does not exist in Africa, and we believe that that's a role that we can play. To the extent that some of the Indian players you refer to are coming in, they are mainly manufacturers, and we believe that we can distribute on their behalf. In fact, in this Imres business that we've got, we are obtaining a number of our products out of India. We've got quality control chemists in India monitoring that. And so the promise that we make to our principals is that we will be able to distribute these goods, get them into the hands of the consumer in good shape. Just one thing that might be interesting to you is that our previous acquisition, EcoHealth, is currently distributing into 800 hospitals, into 3,000 retail pharmacies, and into a number of sub-wholesalers, which gets to about 40,000 informal medicine vendors in Nigeria. So we at the moment are distributing approximately 70% of Nigeria's ethical drugs already. So this footprint that we've established, and we will continue to grow, we believe is vibrant. It's an interesting one, and we think it'll give our business a great opportunity going forward.
Mark, it does seem as though distribution does need infrastructure to support it. Does that continue to be a challenge on the continent?
Yes and no. I mean, in many cases, we have taken the approach that trying to establish a footprint, green fields, as it were, in other words, going into countries, finding a piece of land, establishing a warehouse, that is too slow for what we want to do right now. So our approach has been to buy businesses. They've normally been well-run family businesses, to keep the vendors in with some kind of a profit warranty for a number of years so that we can learn the business, learn the country, and over time put our own management in place. And we think that doing it that way, by buying the infrastructure, is a quicker route to the footprint that we want to get than establishing it from a greenfields approach.
Mark, thank you for making the time to join us. Of course, that was Mark Lamberti. He is the Chief Executive of Imperial.